In Brazil, people are dying from a bottle they trusted, a cheap vodka bought legally, poured like any other drink, until hospitals in Sao Paulo began reporting multiple methanol poisonings. The scandal grew so large that even a state governor joked about it before apologizing to a furious nation. But this isn't an isolated story. It's part of a worldwide epidemic. Fake alcohol disguised as the brands you know, sold across bars, clubs, and supermarkets from China to California. And one of the companies named in U.S. lawsuits in 2025 is a brand you see in almost every American bar. Billion-dollar lawsuits, underground distilleries, and luxury bottles that are anything but real. This is the alcohol scam no one talks about. And tonight, you'll see just how deep the deception goes. It started with a bottle that looked ordinary, the same sleek glass and silver label you'd see on any supermarket shelf in Sao Paulo. But the vodka inside wasn't what it claimed to be. It carried a familiar label, a trusted barcode, and a poison its makers never produced. Tests later revealed the bottle was filled not with ethanol, but methanol, an industrial solvent. A few sips caused blindness. 2 shots could shut down the nervous system entirely. Within days, emergency rooms were treating dozens of suspected cases. At least 3 people were confirmed dead, and federal health officials warned the public to avoid clear spirits until the source was found. Bottles seized in bars, homes, and delivery trucks all pointed to one shocking pattern. The fake spirits were being sold right alongside real ones in legitimate stores. When fraud looks this perfect, the crime isn't small, it's systemic. Investigators traced it to an unlicensed bottling site in southern Brazil, where used bottles were refilled and resealed with fake tax stamps. The nation demanded answers, but instead of swift accountability, Brazil's governor made a public joke about the deaths, a moment that turned outrage into fury. Behind the headlines, critics accused the country's major alcohol lobby of blocking tighter counterfeit controls. Controls that could have prevented these deaths, but might have slowed their own supply chains. Because when profit moves faster than protection, someone always pays the price. And the price in Brazil was paid in blood. And for U.S. viewers, here's the part no one says out loud. U.S. Customs and Border Protection is already dealing with rising counterfeit imports. And alcohol is one of the products international agencies flag as high risk. When a supply chain like this exists in Brazil, it can easily spill into U.S. gray markets. But while politicians deflected blame, another scandal was already unfolding, this time not in the black market, but inside a billion-dollar boardroom. Because what if even the brands we trust, the ones on billboards and celebrity ads, weren't telling the truth either? In the United States, the deception doesn't come from back-alley bottling plants, it comes from boardrooms. Because sometimes the biggest scams wear the cleanest suits. In May 2025, Diageo, one of the world's largest alcohol corporations, was hit with a class action lawsuit. The accusation that its high-end tequila brands Don Julio and Casamigos were not truly 100% agave, despite the label that consumers pay extra for. That small phrase, 100% agave, is supposed to mean purity. No additives, no blending, no shortcuts. But according to the lawsuit, laboratory tests allegedly found something else. Traces of sugarcane ethanol and other non-agave sources. If true, it means the world's most famous tequila brand might have been selling a half-truth at full price. The timing couldn't be worse. The tequila market had exploded. Celebrities like George Clooney, who co-founded Casamigos before selling it to Diageo for over $1 billion, helped glamorize the brand as the authentic luxury of the working man. But now, authenticity itself is on trial. Diageo denied wrongdoing, insisting its products meet all Mexican regulations, but for consumers, the damage was done. Because this wasn't the story of one company cutting corners. It was a glimpse into an industry built on trust, where marketing often tells a better story than the liquid inside the bottle. And in the US, this matters even more, because Diageo isn't just tequila. It's Smirnoff, Guinness, Johnnie Walker, Tanqueray. If a company that dominant can have its purity claims questioned, every American top-shelf bottle suddenly looks a little less certain. And just as American consumers began questioning their tequila, half a world away, another discovery would make them question something even older: whisky itself. In October 2025, South Africa's Hawks, the country's elite crime unit, raided a warehouse complex on the outskirts of Durban. Inside, they uncovered a fully equipped counterfeit distillery, stainless steel tanks, bottle fillers, forged brand labels, and cloned tax stamps. Everything needed to mass-produce fake whiskey. It wasn't a scam, it was a system. The bottles being faked weren't knockoffs. They carried names like Johnnie Walker, J&B, and Ballantines, brands trusted in bars from Johannesburg to New York. The liquid inside wasn't whiskey at all. It was industrial alcohol, darkened with caramel coloring and spiked with flavoring agents. When police shut the plant down, they found pallets of counterfeit stock worth millions of rand, enough to reach ordinary retail shelves, not just street stalls. Fake whiskey wasn't being hidden, it was being blended into the mainstream, and that's what shocked investigators most. The factory wasn't some back alley den, it was operating under the noses of licensed suppliers, exploiting loopholes in South Africa's labeling and excise stamp system. Analysts said the operation could have generated millions in untaxed profit, while every consumer who drank it risked chemical burns, blindness, or organ failure. Yet, no major brand accepted direct responsibility. Distillers issued brief statements blaming criminal syndicates, insisting counterfeiting was beyond their control. But how far can a corporation look away before ignorance becomes complicity? Because behind every fake bottle sits a real logo, and when those logos cross borders, the illusion of safety crosses with them. And in the U.S., customs officials have already warned that counterfeit liquor is part of the same global trade they intercept at American ports, meaning what's bottled cheaply in Durban doesn't always stay in Durban. Which brings us to the biggest illusion of all, a nation that built its identity on alcohol purity and a scandal worth $500 million. In August 2025, Chinese authorities made one of the largest counterfeit alcohol busts in history, a sprawling operation producing over $515 million worth of fake premium liquor, labeled as Moutai, Wuliangye, and even government-issued special supply bottles meant for diplomats and state banquets. When corruption wears a label of honor, even fakes can look official. For years, the counterfeiters had perfected their craft, recycling real bottles, forging QR codes, even injecting dust under the caps to mimic age. Some of these bottles were so convincing that collectors and sommeliers couldn't tell them apart from the real thing, but the profits were staggering. The seized inventory alone represented hundreds of thousands of bottles. The ministry said the network stretched from small workshops to high-end venues, meaning a lot of these bottles weren't staying in back alleys. They didn't just fake the drink, they faked the prestige. Chinese media called it the Invisible Empire, a network that stretched from small workshops in Guangzhou to luxury bars in Shanghai, feeding off the nation's obsession with premium liquor as a symbol of success. Yet, the story didn't end with arrests, because when investigators dug deeper, they found something darker. The counterfeiters had inside help, former employees of major distilleries with access to original bottle molds and branding materials. This wasn't bootlegging, it was betrayal from within. Even after the raid, authorities admitted that countless bottles were still in circulation. And that's where the US link comes in. Chinese premium liquors like Moutai and Wuliangye are now traded through international auction and resale sites. That means American collectors and restaurants buying outside official importers can be exposed to the same kind of counterfeits. If $500 million worth of fakes can slip through China's strict system, it raises one uncomfortable question. What about the bottles sitting in collectors' cellars, the ones that built entire reputations on their supposed authenticity? If fake vodka killed trust in Brazil and fake whiskey corrupted it in South Africa, then in America, trust itself became a currency because one man sold illusions worth millions and the world believed him. His name was Rudy Kurniawan, a young collector who dazzled the U.S. wine elite in the early 2000s. He hosted lavish tastings in Los Angeles, sold rare bottles through Christie's and Acker Merrill, and became the darling of Wall Street's connoisseurs. But behind the charm and million-dollar smiles was a secret workshop. Bottles soaking in warm water, labels peeling off, counterfeit corks drying on racks. Rudy was blending cheap table wine with traces of authentic vintage, rebottling them as priceless Romanée Conti and Chateau Lafleur, names worth tens of thousands each. When the FBI raided his home, they found a wine lab disguised as a kitchen, shelves stacked with labels, corks, and seals ready to counterfeit the legends of French viticulture for decades. Kerniawan's 2012 arrest shocked the luxury world and revealed how brand prestige had blinded even experts. Because in the end, the victims weren't just collectors, they were believers. Believers in the idea that price equals purity, that luxury means safety, that trust can be bottled and sold. Whether it's tequila, whiskey, or fine wine, every case leaves the same aftertaste, a question no brand wants asked. When everything looks real, how do you know what's fake? If this exposed something you hadn't heard anywhere else, stay with us. This is the shadow market, and we break down the food and drink stories brands would rather bury. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this with someone who still thinks the logo guarantees the truth. Don't just consume the story, question it.